So our final presentation of the afternoon, before we go on to closing remarks, is from former officers and current OA career consultants, Lisa Jones and Fiona Jackson. So Lisa and Fiona, and it's come up so many times throughout the day today, they're often asked about commercial awareness, commercial experience. What does it mean? How do I articulate it? You know, especially if I have no civilian experience. And so over the next 15 minutes or so, they're going to really explore the subject and help you to best sell your value to potential new employers. So Lisa, Fiona, I will hand over to you.
Thanks very much, Esme. I thought we'd just start today with some kind of definitions of what commercial awareness means. Now, I also think it's worth pointing out that there's a difference between commercial awareness and commercial experience. And obviously, experience is something tangible, whereas what we're mainly going to focus on today is commercial awareness, but we will also touch on experience. So the definitions that are there: the ability to understand what makes a business or organisation successful through either buying or selling products or supplying services to a market. And it's also a term that refers to a candidate's general knowledge of business, their business experiences throughout their career, and specifically their understanding of the industry which they are applying to join. So I think it's worth just kind of having those in our minds as we go through to the next slide.
So I suppose really then what we need to look at is, what does this mean for service leavers? And I have to say, you know, after hearing Nigel's presentation, we're sort of coming a bit down to earth now. We're getting back to sort of the nuts and bolts of business. And Lisa and I work with many clients who rightly understand that they don't have, strictly speaking, commercial experience unless they've left the military and been out and done something else afterwards. But what Lisa and I started talking about when we were preparing for this presentation was, but there are lots of ways that you can develop your understanding of commercial experience, even if you haven't necessarily run, you know, a multi-million pound profit and loss account. You can still develop your understanding of commercial experience. But then, as Lisa said in her definitions, you can start thinking about, you know, what makes a business or organization successful. Now, that could be a commercial business, or it could be a not-for-profit business like an NHS trust or a charity, but start trying to explore what it is about an organisation that makes it successful. And generally it would be in terms of delivery of output in some way. Also, I know you're probably all quite busy in current roles, but keep up to date on daily happenings and developments in the business and commercial world. Now, I'm sure you must have been living in a bubble if you don't realise at the moment, you know, we seem to have a major crisis in terms of energy prices because it's all over the media. And really that's the way to do it. And I said to Lisa the other day, I said, well, my little routine is, you know, when I get up in the morning, I switch on the Today programme, and there's generally a very good slot on business, and I just listen to that. And then if I'm reading the Times, say, I look at the financial pages as well. So you don't have to spend a huge amount of time swatting up on business developments, and almost you can absorb it by osmosis, you know, when you're going about getting ready to go to work, or if you're not going out to work, to go to your office, whether it's in the garden shed or at your kitchen table. Also focus on the sectors that interest you, and one of the things again that Lisa and I would talk to clients about is, okay, you know, what particular sector would you like to work in? Are you, for example, very keen on sustainable energy, or are you more keen on financial services? But once you've probably started to think about the sectors that you're interested in, then look at, well, who are the major players in these sectors, and who are the competitors? You know, what's going on in that world? What recent events, economic, political or regulatory, might impact them? And it was very good to listen to the presentation this morning to talk about, you know, the effects of Brexit and the effects of COVID, particularly in the supply chain with lorry drivers and so on. But all these things have a knock-on effect. So, for example, who would have thought that because a factory was going to stop producing fertilizer, we wouldn't get chicken on the shelves in Waitrose or Sainsbury's or something like that? But there are lots of knock-on effects. And so start to try and pick up on those links. What emerging challenges might there be? And we've heard this morning that one of the major challenges is a skills shortage with a declining population, and actually, lots of people having left at the beginning of COVID and gone back to EU countries. Which are the sectors that are the ones to watch? Where might there be an opportunity? And again, I talk to clients and say, okay, traditionally, a lot of you want to go into, say, financial services or management consultancy generally, because that's what people have done in the past. But actually, what's the growth for the future? What's happening for the future? Is it renewable energy? Is it AI, robotics, cyber? So look at the emerging markets and maybe think, well, can you align yourself to those? Because there are going to be plenty of job opportunities and developments from the future. So it's about really demonstrating that you get it, and that always is positive, particularly if you can relate your knowledge to a particular organization. So if you're going for an interview with an organization, then research that company, research the competitors, show the interviewers that you understand the challenges that they're facing in this world today. And certainly a number of you probably have heard of the AMAC course at Manchester Business School, but that can be a really good snapshot of understanding the commercial world. And I think Poonam mentioned earlier on about being able to read a balance sheet, being able to understand a cash flow forecast or a profit and loss account. Well, the AMAC course at Manchester Business School will help you with that. But obviously it doesn't give real life hands-on commercial experience. Lisa, have you got anything to add to what I've said on that one?
No, I just think that, some of what we're saying now has been echoed throughout the day today. And Stuart Tootle earlier exactly talked about articulating your research and the fact that you've actually kind of, done that and tried to understand the challenges that organisations are facing or have faced, and then relating your experience to what they've been through and how your skills could be valid in helping them through something similar in the future. So I thought that kind of leads exactly onto this, which is highlighting your skills. And I've been listening throughout today, and really so many people have talked about understanding yourself, being who you are, being true to yourself, being clear about your skills and knowledge and have confidence in that. What are you good at? Focusing on what you're good at. Anna Baker Cresswell said, focus on who you are and what you can offer. You are the product. Andy Brown talked about understanding how you operate and demonstrating understanding and knowledge of an organisation. All of this, I think, is absolutely, what we're saying here. Highlight your skills. So first of all, know yourself, and then be able to articulate that. And I think a lot of people panic so much about not having commercial experience that they forget that actually that might be part of what an organisation might want in their kind of desirable criteria, but actually it's not the deal breaker. And actually the sum of what you do offer might be much stronger than that element that you lack. And showing that you've got a capacity to learn, and also that you have got an interest, and as Fiona said, demonstrating that you get it, can really go quite a long way to helping you over that hurdle. So what makes you different and valuable to an employer? It's about being able to articulate that, and of course, keeping it relevant to the organisation that you're applying to. exactly looking for, what is it that they're looking for? How do you match those requirements? And backing that up with evidence and trying to make that evidence as relevant as you can, and not kind of scaring them off with, too many exciting stories that they might not be able to relate to. And, it sounds really obvious, but is it obvious on your CV that you've got the things that they're looking for? Because too often people have a one-size-fits-all CV that's obviously a useful document for when you're networking and when you're doing your research. But as soon as you're applying for a particular role, you really do have to make that CV relevant to that role and that organisation. And obviously we at the OA are very happy to help you with that. It's what we do every day. So please do get in touch if you haven't already. In terms of qualifications, it might be that on the job description it talks about a qualification, but we've already heard today from people, who have got jobs without having specific experience, running the Wellington estate, without that specific experience in the background. And I think what that shows, I think it will really illustrate, is what I said at the beginning, is about knowing what you are good at and articulating that in a really compelling way, so that people kind of are so impressed by that and understand that that is important, that they perhaps are less concerned about what you lack. And, but if there are specific qualifications that are required, try and find out, do I really need this? And if you do, then perhaps look into getting qualifications. Obviously, you get some good opportunity to do that through the ELCs and so on, and your resettlement office will be able to advise you on that. Don't know if you had anything else to add, Fiona.
Just a quick one, Lisa, because you mentioned about showing evidence on the CV, and I think that's really, really important. And obviously, for our clients who are leaving the services, they're not going to be able to say, I made sales of X million pounds or whatever. But you can say things like, you increase efficiency, you reduce the lead time or within the supply chain, you reduce the headcount but increased output, things like that. So there are lots of things that you can do that show some commercial awareness, because to me commercial awareness is all about, well, how does a company make money? You either increase sales or you reduce your costs. And so if you're not able to show that you've increased sales, you can certainly show maybe ways that you've managed to reduce costs, or even things like with business, if you were looking at a business development role, you show how you've done stakeholder engagement at, say, international government level because you've been a defence attaché or something like that. And this really just picks up on all what Lisa has been saying and what our speakers have been saying throughout the day. What can you offer? Okay, so you can offer management of risks, awareness of a situation. How do you identify risks? How do you preempt the situation? How do you stop the supply chain breaking down, certain things like that. Also analysing data. Now, you may not be able to read a profit and loss account, but I'm sure quite a lot of you will be in jobs where you've got to analyse large amount of data, that you've got metrics to look at, whether it's, I don't know, wastage rate on training courses or sickness rates, things like that. But there's data that you can look at. Also future forecasting. A lot of clients tell us they involved in things, and certainly at a higher level, horizon scanning. You're looking at, okay, what's the future going to be like for the military in 5, 10 or more years' time, and businesses in a way are all about future forecasting, although I'm not sure businesses did manage to forecast COVID, but in the main, that's what businesses are looking for. Also, it's a bit like what I was saying about, say, the defence attaché role, relationship building, management of stakeholders, engaging with stakeholders, and client focus and customer service. So you may be in a support role, say in logistics or intelligence or whatever. So you have got customers or you've got clients, you are providing a service to them. But I suppose on the other side, you don't want to sort of use the vernacular, sort of big up what you don't have. And we have heard clients say, well, I've got commercial experience because I ran the regimental saddle club, but it had a turnover of £3,000. Well, yeah, okay, that's a great thing to have done, but it's not the same as being the MD of a company running a multi-million-pound budget. So just be realistic. You're better actually not to big up what you've done and not to try and bluff your way through it. And you might say, well, yes, I appreciate I haven't run a profit and loss account, but I've just attended the Manchester Business School course and I now understand how a business is financed. So just be true to yourself, which again is what a lot of our other speakers are saying.
Yeah, so this is just kind of almost reinforcing what Fiona's just said there. It's about thinking about what you've done. So really going through your CV and thinking about your jobs and asking yourself that so what, what does that actually mean? And as Fiona said, support arms provide a service to other units and formations. This is client service. You have had experience of, understanding client needs, responding to those needs, perhaps even preempting those needs, getting to know your client. What do they need? When do they need it? How frequently do they need it? And providing a good service. Yes, it's not in a competitive environment necessarily, but it's still experience of responding to what customers or clients want. As we say there, adjusting requirements accordingly, depending on their, they might have changing needs, and good communication skills obviously are key to all of that. Stakeholder engagement, all of that. If you've worked in a multinational environment, particularly, often at very high levels. I mean, Fiona mentioned at attaché level. I talked to a lot of really impressive people who've built some really transformational relationships on an international arena, and that's the kind of stuff that is really important to bring out.
Lisa,
transformation. Sorry.
Do you mind if I just interject there? I was just going to say to go back to the second point about understanding the client's needs, that we see a lot on CVs. People have been involved in urgent operational requirements. I mean, certainly say during the Afghan campaign or even the recent activities in Afghanistan, or through COVID, having to be able to mobilize something pretty quickly. And, that can be a really good sort of commercial skill and understanding, because I've worked in retail for a long time, and you were always having to adjust in retail because of bad weather, or I don't know, recently the ship was stuck in the Suez Canal or whatever. So military people have done lots of things that relate to business activity as well.
Absolutely. And anything that you do that makes a process more efficient or saves time and allows you to perhaps do something else in addition to that will translate in the real world as being profit. So really think about what you've done, and on your CV try and use dimensions, try and show how you've improved things, and try and use percentages if you can, or if the figures that you have are impressive, then pepper the CV with them. Obviously don't overdo it, because then it can look a bit it kind of dilutes it essentially. But if you can, try and show how much of an impact you've had on an organization. I think that's really helpful. Because organizations, if they can see that you're even thinking about how you've had an impact and how you have improved things, that shows that you've got the mindset that's going to come into their organization and start seeing ways of doing that for them, which will of course translate into commercial value. So it's putting yourself in the shoes of the client. And actually, sometimes you might have had, you know, an experience of that. For example, if you've worked in Abbey Wood and dealt with various defence contractors or whatever, you know, you've been the client. So think about your own expectations or what frustrated you, and think to yourself, you know, how would I go about preventing that if I was on the other side?
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of you will have worked with the external agencies, particularly recently, if you were involved in any sort of COVID-related activity. And as Lisa said, if you were working on some sort of procurement project, working with civilian suppliers or working with contractors, if you've run a garrison or run a ship or whatever. So, you know, there's so many examples of things where you have got some element of commercial experience, but not, as I said before, run a profit and loss account, but you've certainly done things that contribute to making an organisation efficient, and in the commercial world that would mean profitable.
Yeah, so I mean, to kind of summarize there, you have much more to contribute than you think. And while you might not have direct commercial experience, you know, if you can show that you've done your research, you understand the industry and the challenges they're facing, and know yourself and how you can add value, then, you know, that will really help.
Yeah, and it is about thinking about your experiences from a different angle, that you know, you may have deployed an operation, or you may have been involved in the supply chain to the Falkland Islands or whatever. Okay, these are military operations, but you know, businesses have to get goods around the world. They have to deploy people in a non-military way to different parts of the world and different locations. So if you can just try and put your mind into, well, what does this company do or this organisation do that actually is similar to some of the things that I've done?
And I think, yeah, absolutely. It's looking at your CV, your achievements, your experiences from someone else's perspective. What do they want? And how can you respond accordingly, making it relevant, and really just focusing on what you're good at rather than worrying too much about what you're not good at or what you can't demonstrate tangible experience of.
Yeah, I think you're right, Lisa, because as I said before, it's not about trying to sort of pick up what you can't do or you haven't had experience of. It's just really putting forward the positive. I can engage with people at very senior level. I brief ministers, you know, I talk to at international events, those sort of things. It is focusing on the positive, and anything that you can do to add value to an organisation is commercial.
Absolutely, absolutely. Are there any questions, Esme?
We do have just one question from Richard, and I think you already touched on it earlier, but it'd be good just to have a final answer. Do voluntary positions such as a school governor or volunteering or running sports add real value, or do they merely just enhance the picture and that marketing of you?
I mean, I think it depends on the role, but, you know, I think if you have been a school governor and you put that on your CV, I mean, it's about the message that it's sending out, and it's sending out a message that, you know, you are giving up your time to serve the community, and, you know, you're adding value outside of work. And obviously, you know, depending on what you've been involved with as a school governor or a trustee of a charity or whatever it might be, you know, you might have some tangible, relevant experience to add. So I think definitely it would be worth mentioning.
Can I add into that, Lisa? Because actually I was a school governor for 5 years for a state secondary school, and the Board of Governors had quite a diverse range of people, some from commercial organisations and some not. But I do remember it was very early on in my time of governorship, we were discussing whether to spend quite a significant amount of money on a new school hockey pitch, or would we spend the money on rowing facilities? And I just sort of almost like put my hand up and said, well, what's the strategy, or what's the business plan for the school? What's in the budget for this? And people looked at me as if I'd had two heads. And I said, well, until I know what the strategy going forward is, how do I know whether this is the right amount of money to spend or not? And then the headmaster agreed with me, and we deferred it till the next meeting, and then we could make an informed decision. So again, it's all about, if you're in these sort of roles, helping to make informed decisions for an organisation. And this was not, this was a state-run school, but it still had to balance the books, even if it wasn't making money.
And I think, all of those kinds of experiences are, the kind of things that non-executive directors do as well. It's basically asking questions and holding people to account. So I think that is a definitely valuable experience.
Thank you. Anything else, Esme, or was that the only question?
We do have a question from John asking whether the OA has a glossary, or do we know of a glossary that kind of offers a translation of military responsibilities into commercial language. And hopefully you'll both agree that the best advice would be to come in and book an appointment with you both, or one of you at least. For those of you who haven't done so already, Lisa and Fiona offer career consultation appointments where they will politely rip your CV to shreds and help you put it back together again, looking at translating your language and your experience. And we have absolutely a fantastic feedback from appointments with both Lisa and Fiona. So as I say, if you haven't done so already, I really recommend booking in.
Could I just quickly add, Esme, thank you for that. I mean, last year, I actually worked with quite a few pilots who had been made redundant. They had been military pilots and then they had started to become commercial pilots. And we spent quite a lot of time looking at, okay, what are the skills, say, of a fast jet pilot, and how can you translate those into the commercial world? Okay, decision making, risk management, all the things that Lisa mentioned earlier.
I also think, in terms of a glossary, while on the face of it, that sounds like a good idea. I think the danger of that is that, a kind of one size fits all thing might not really translate properly over to a civilian environment. So, just to kind of reinforce what Esme said, I think the best thing to do is to look at things on a one-to-one basis and on an individual basis. And certainly we're very happy to help anyone with their CV if they need that kind of support. That's absolutely part of what we do when you have a consultation with us.
Fantastic. Well, thank you both. I am conscious of time, but that was brilliant. So thank you. Before we wrap up the event today, I'm just going to hand over to the OA's Director of Employment, Laura Blair. Many of you have probably met Laura, and since leaving the Army as a Major in 2012, Laura continued to contribute to the military community as COO for the RFEA. And with a passion for education and development, Laura operated as Head of Client Management for the global learning brand Maynard Lee, who we mentioned earlier. Laura is also a qualified teacher and became a Director of Learning and an Assistant Principal. So Laura, I think you've been with the OA just over a year now, and I'm thrilled that you're here today. So I'll hand over now before we close this event.
Fab, thank you, Esme. So we're just about to wrap up what I think has been a really informative event, and thank you to our speakers. And thank you for sharing their insights, and also to you, the participants. I hope you found this really, really useful, certainly in terms of maximising your resettlement journey, connecting with what you really want to do and who you want to be, as both Anna and Nigel said, and supporting your knowledge of the jobs market as well. The key takeaway from us today as the Officers Association is that your skill set really matters. And there are ever-growing numbers of employers really recognising that skill set, the value of military experience, and importantly, what it can bring to their business. Now, the reality is that 50+ service leavers are not alone in sometimes struggling during their career transition. We know from research that entering a new profession can be challenging for any service leaver and any veteran who may have been on a second career, given that some employers, particularly in the current context of COVID, prioritise or may prioritise experience gained in their industry over experience that's been achieved outside of that. Now, we recognise this, and we're looking at running more useful courses for you to assist you in your transition journey. And we want to provide you with access to quality training opportunities. So we are looking at commercial awareness courses, financial awareness courses to further enhance your transferable skill set. And there will be more detail on those courses in the new year as part of our developing membership offering, which Lee mentioned at the start of this employment event today. Now, as employment director, in terms of the current jobs market, it's very fair to say that the world is a complex place at the minute, but your skill set absolutely does have the ability to take advantage of this. And companies that the Officers Association are speaking to, they're absolutely seeking soft skills solutions in terms of hiring. And as Kate said earlier today during her presentation, it is a candidate's jobs market, it is. We're seeing companies seeking excellent leadership ability, the ability to deliver under pressure, creativity and resilience, which is exactly why you, officer talent, are well positioned, I would argue, to step in to the industry climate right now. There is always going to be more to do in terms of promoting the value that service leavers bring to industry. There will always be more to do. And we at the Officers Association are continuing to call for better recognition by employers of the skills and the experience of 50+ service leavers. Employers are continuing to approach us, and we are continuing to go out and to source quality job opportunities for you that are available on our jobs board. The employers that are posting on our jobs board at the minute, they are varied to say the least, which is a good thing. They include, for example, MACE, the National Crime Agency, London Business School, JP Morgan, Deloitte, the Royal Thames Yacht Club, Amazon, Sedgeburgh School, High Grind, you heard from Anna earlier, Naval Families Federation, Premise Data, Cavalry and Guards Club, the Metropolitan Police, and the Army Sports Control Board, to name but a few. So the variety is on our jobs board as we speak. To access it, you just need to be registered with us, and you can apply, you can look at any job there that fuels your interest. If you're already registered with us, you will also gain direct access to our highly experienced career consultants, Lisa and Fiona, who you've just heard from. Both Lisa and Fiona have really deep industry experience and will assist you in directly translating your skill set to industry. They've sat on a variety of different recruitment and promotion panels for large companies. They have first-hand experience of the military and also the corporate and the commercial environment as well. They have the expertise to coach you in terms of how best to network, to review and look at your CV, and how to use LinkedIn as a powerful tool and prepare you for interview. It is very easy to book a consultation. You just do so via our website. So in summary, I hope you've enjoyed this event and I hope you've gained a great deal from it. And we are constantly after feedback so that we can continue to enhance the services that we provide to you. So please, after the event finishes, do feedback to us. We continue to run a number of different events. We have on the 4th of November, another Officer Employment Forum. Companies lined up for that event already include Hayes, the global recruitment company, and Jacobs, the global engineering company as well. Post-COVID, on the 16th of December, we are also running our first face-to-face networking event, our Christmas networking drinks, at the In and Out Club in London. Companies signed up to that already, so it's a real opportunity for you to be in the room with companies who are actively hiring and want to hear about you and your skill set. BAE, St James's Wealth Management, and Ocado Tech are just a few examples of companies that will be at our Christmas networking drinks. More detail will follow on those on our events page, probably 24th of October and beyond. I urge you, if you're interested, to just jump on after that date, book a ticket, because they will go like hotcakes. A really good opportunity to engage with employers face-to-face in the room. So to close, please provide us with feedback so we can enhance our services to you. Do continue to access the Officers Association, make use of our expert career consultants, our jobs board, our events, our employer webinars, and the content on our website. And finally, for me, be really, really confident that employers now and in the future absolutely want to engage with, talk to, and hire officer talent. Esme, thank you very, very much.
Fabulous. Thank you, Laura. I also wanted to say another thank you to our fantastic speakers today. It has been wonderful hearing from so many people with such different backgrounds, and thank you for giving up your time, for joining us today, and for sharing your experiences. Lots of lovely messages of thanks coming in, so I suggest we close for today. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.